Credit cards is a very interesting subject in its own right, and I could quite happily talk for 2 or 3 hours on this subject. But of course, the question is, what can I do to improve my level of credit with my credit cards, for example? And it was a generic question that's been pointed at me here. And the question is about how can I raise my credit limits? How can I improve my credit card situation? Again, quite a detailed subject. But essentially, the first thing to do is establish how many credit cards do you have. I mean, you may only have one, you may have several credit cards. And with all these things, the most important thing when you're looking at the borrowing that you have available to you, and again, seek professional advice. I'm not an independent financial advisor, so you may need to go and seek professional advice if you're going to use this in very specific ways. But speaking as an investor, speaking as somebody that's used this a lot in the past, is I look for two things. I look for the amount of borrowing that's available to me, and I look for the interest rate that's available. There is a third thing actually that's very important, and that is if you're looking to borrow money at a low interest rate, how long is that low interest rate period for? There's some great things you can do with interest rates. For example, with balance transfer rates, you can take money off a card, and there's even a way to do it where you can move that money down into a bank account, and it may be at 0% for a year, 6 months, 18 months. There are even now cards available for people wanting to really use their money smartly and intelligently for something like 20, 24 months, which is phenomenal if you think about it. Now, I think that's a reflection of where the market is right now. I think it's a reflection of the banks and the lenders realizing that the interest rates are low and people need a longer period to be able to get themselves sorted out to pay back their borrowing. But remember, with credit cards, there's some great facilities. It's a tool that could be used, for example, in your business. So I'm not referring so much here to using credit card money, for example, for consuming things. It's more about using it as an investment strategy as well. But again, that's a whole subject in its own right. So that's one of the first things to do is to look at your credit card status and see what the level of borrowing is available to you. And oddly enough, certainly in the United Kingdom, if you have, say, a £10,000 credit limit on your credit card and you're not using that card on a regular basis, your credit limit will come down. And that's because it's actually creating a negative effect on your credit score. So there's a phrase that I've used for many, many years, and that is if you don't use it, you lose it. And literally, if you're not using your credit card actively and creating what we call positive footprints on your credit file, it'll actually have a detrimental effect on the credit limits and the availability of credit to you. So think about how you could use the money in a healthy way. Think about how you're going to pay it back as well, and look to see if you can negotiate with the credit card companies a lower interest rate on your borrowing so that you're borrowing it for longer periods of time and for less cost to you as well.